The story begins with Sarah, a young woman returning to her childhood home for Christmas after several years. The house, nestled in a quiet, snow-covered village, held memories of warm, festive holidays spent with her family. But this year, something felt different. As Sarah stepped into the old house, she noticed that the air was unnaturally cold, despite the roaring fireplace. The decorations her parents had put up seemed eerily outdated, almost as if they had been frozen in time. Her parents greeted her warmly, but their smiles felt strained. That night, as Sarah unpacked her things in her old bedroom, she found a small, dusty box hidden in the corner of her closet. Inside was a delicate glass ornament shaped like an angel, something she didn't recall seeing before. Attached to it was a faded note: "Do not hang this on the tree. Keep it hidden." Confused, Sarah decided to ask her parents about it the next morning. However, during the night she was awakened by soft, jingling bells echoing through the house. Assuming it was her parents decorating, she went downstairs. To her horror, the living room was empty, yet the Christmas tree was fully decorated with ornaments she had never seen before. Ornaments that looked old and sinister, depicting grotesque faces and shadowy figures. Among them was the glass angel she had found, now prominently placed at the top of the tree. Suddenly the bells grew louder, and a deep, raspy voice whispered, "You shouldn't have come back." Terrified, Sarah ran back to her room and locked the door. The whispers continued, growing louder and more menacing. Then she heard footsteps outside her room, slow, deliberate steps. The next morning, Sarah confronted her parents, who finally confessed the truth. Decades ago, the family had made a pact with a malevolent spirit known as the Yule Phantom to ensure their prosperity. Every Christmas, the spirit demanded a gift in return. A member of the family had to die. Sarah's parents had managed to avoid the pact by sending her away every Christmas. Now that she was back, the Phantom had returned to claim its prize. Desperate to escape, Sarah decided to leave the house, but every time she tried, she found herself back inside. The house had become a trap, a twisted maze where the Phantom's voice taunted her. As the clock struck midnight on Christmas Eve, the tree lit up with an unnatural glow, and the ornaments began to move, their grotesque faces turning to look at Sarah. The glass angel shattered, and from the shards emerged a dark, shadowy figure, the Yule Phantom. The Phantom offered Sarah a choice. She could sacrifice herself or condemn her entire family to eternal torment. With tears streaming down her face, Sarah made the ultimate sacrifice, hoping to break the curse once and for all. The next morning, Sarah's parents found her lifeless body beneath the tree. The ornaments were gone, the tree was bare, and the house felt strangely lighter. The curse had been lifted, but at a terrible cost. Years later, the house remains abandoned, and locals whisper of eerie bells that ring every Christmas Eve, a chilling reminder of the sacrifice made to end the curse. The return of the Yule Phantom. Several years had passed since Sarah's tragic death. Her childhood home remained abandoned, shrouded in mystery and fear. The villagers avoided it, claiming to hear faint jingling bells and see flickering lights in its windows during the Christmas season. Some swore they saw shadowy figures in the yard, watching anyone who dared to get too close, but curiosity has a way of tempting fate. In December, a young couple, Emma and Josh, bought the house. They had heard the rumors, but dismissed them as local folklore meant to scare away outsiders. For them, the house was a dream property, charming, affordable, and perfect for starting their new life together. As they moved in, Emma found an old photo album tucked away in a drawer. The photos showed a family celebrating Christmas in the house, but in the background of every picture was a faint shadow, a figure that grew more distinct with each passing year. By the final photo, the shadow looked unmistakably like a tall, cloaked figure standing by the Christmas tree. Unsettled but determined to make the house their home, Emma and Josh decorated for Christmas. They placed a tall, majestic tree in the living room, stringing it with lights and ornaments. Among the decorations, Emma found an old glass angel ornament tucked in a dusty box. She thought it was beautiful and placed it at the top of the tree. That night, strange things began to happen. Emma woke up to the sound of faint bells echoing through the house. She shook Josh awake, but he dismissed it as her imagination. Moments later, the lights in the hallway flickered, and a cold draft swept through their bedroom. Then they heard it, a low, guttural whisper. "Why did you disturb my tree?" Emma and Josh froze. The whisper seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The next morning they decided to investigate. They found claw-like scratches on the walls near the tree and footprints in the snow outside, leading to the house but not away from it. Josh tried to rationalize the events, but Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them. As Christmas Eve approached, the activity grew worse. The ornaments on the tree would move on their own, their positions shifting every time Emma turned away. The angel at the top of the tree seemed to glow faintly, and its expression looked more sinister with each passing day. Then came the dreams. Emma dreamed of Sarah, her pale face twisted in terror, warning her to leave the house. "It's not over," Sarah whispered. "The phantom always returns. It needs a soul to claim." Josh, too, was haunted by visions of a shadowy figure standing at the foot of their bed, its skeletal hand reaching out to him. He would wake up drenched in sweat, convinced it was more than just a nightmare. On Christmas Eve, the couple decided to stay awake together, determined to confront whatever was tormenting them. As the clock struck midnight, the house went completely silent. Then the bells began to jingle, louder and louder, until the sound was deafening. The lights on the tree flickered violently, and the glass angel shattered, just as it had years ago. From the shards emerged the Yule phantom, its shadowy form towering over Emma and Josh. "You disturbed my slumber," it hissed. "The pact must continue." Terrified, the couple begged for mercy, but the phantom only laughed. "You must choose," it said, echoing the ultimatum given to Sarah years ago. "One of you stays, or both of you perish." Emma and Josh held each other tightly, refusing to make the choice. The phantom grew angrier, its shadow engulfing the room. Suddenly, Emma remembered Sarah's warning in her dream. "Wait," Emma shouted. "What if we destroy the tree?" The phantom hesitated, its form flickering. Emma grabbed a nearby fireplace poker and swung it at the tree, knocking it over and smashing the remaining ornaments. Josh grabbed the angel's broken shards and threw them into the fire. The phantom screamed, its shadow thrashing violently before it began to dissolve. The bells faded, and the room fell eerily quiet. The next morning, Emma and Josh found the house empty and peaceful. The scratches on the walls were gone, and the cold, oppressive atmosphere had lifted. They packed their belongings and left, vowing never to return. The house now stands empty again, its windows dark and uninviting. The villagers whisper that the phantom may have been defeated, or perhaps it is merely lying in wait for the next Christmas to claim another soul. And every Christmas Eve, faint jingling bells can still be heard, a chilling reminder that some curses never truly end. The curse reborn. Emma and Josh thought they had escaped the nightmare, but curses like the Yule phantoms have a way of clawing back into reality. The couple moved to a new city, far from the haunted house, and tried to rebuild their lives. For a while, things seemed normal, until the following Christmas season. It began subtly. One December evening, Emma unpacked a box of Christmas decorations they had brought from the old house. To her shock, at the bottom of the box lay a pristine glass angel ornament, the same one she had thrown into the fire. She gasped, dropping the ornament, but it didn't shatter. Instead, it landed softly on the carpet, almost as if it were alive. Josh dismissed it as a trick of her mind, saying it must be a different ornament they hadn't noticed before. Emma wasn't convinced. That night, Emma dreamed of Sarah again. This time, Sarah's face was more decayed, her voice a hollow whisper. "You didn't destroy it," Sarah said. "It's coming for you." The following days grew increasingly eerie. Ornaments would disappear from their tree, only to reappear in strange places around the house. Emma began hearing faint jingling bells, even when she was alone. Josh, once skeptical, started to notice cold drafts sweeping through their home and saw shadowy movements in the corners of his vision. By Christmas Eve, the signs were impossible to ignore. The glass angel now sat atop their tree, despite their repeated attempts to remove it. Each time they took it down, they'd find it back on the tree, its sinister glow brighter than before. Desperate, Emma and Josh reached out to a local historian who specialized in folklore. The historian, Dr. Leonard Graves, listened to their story with grave seriousness. The Yule Phantom isn't bound to a house, he explained. It's bound to the curse. Destroying the tree didn't end it. The Phantom is tied to the pact made by the family. Until the curse is fully broken, it will follow you and anyone connected to that house. How do we break it? Emma asked, her voice trembling. There's only one way. Dr. Graves replied. The spirit must be confronted and its bond severed by an act of sacrifice or defiance. But be warned, it will fight to protect its claim. That night, as the clock struck midnight, the house plunged into darkness. The jingling bells grew deafening, and the glass angel's glow lit up the room like a sinister beacon. The ornaments on the tree began to move, their grotesque faces leering at Emma and Josh. The Yule Phantom materialized from the shadows, taller and more menacing than ever. Its hollow eyes burned with malice as it spoke. You cannot escape me. The pact remains. One of you must stay. Emma and Josh refused to choose, clutching each other tightly as the Phantom advanced. But Emma remembered Dr. Graves' words. An act of defiance could sever the bond. With trembling hands, she grabbed the glass angel and hurled it to the floor. This time, it shattered completely, releasing a blinding light. The Phantom let out an ear-piercing scream, its shadowy form writhing in agony. Josh joined Emma, grabbing the fallen shards and throwing them into the fireplace. The flames roared to life, engulfing the remnants of the cursed ornament. The Phantom lunged at them, but its form began to dissolve, its screams fading into silence. As the last of the shadow disappeared, the house grew warm, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. For the first time in years, the jingling bells were gone. Emma and Josh sold their home and moved far away, finally free of the curse. Or so they thought. Years later, a family purchased the original haunted house, drawn in by its quaint charm and low price. Among the dusty decorations left behind, they found a small box containing a delicate glass angel ornament. The cycle had begun again. The final scene ends with faint jingling bells echoing through the night, a chilling reminder that the Yule Phantom's curse can never truly be destroyed, only delayed. The Eternal Pact. The glass angel's reappearance marked the beginning of a new chapter in the curse. The young family who had moved into the haunted house, Daniel, his wife Claire, and their 8-year-old daughter Lila, had no idea of the sinister legacy tied to their new home. They found the angel ornament in the attic while decorating for Christmas. Lila was instantly drawn to it. "It's so pretty," she said, cradling the delicate glass in her hands. Claire hesitated, feeling uneasy about the ornament's strange glow, but Daniel brushed it off. "It's just an old decoration," he said. "Let's put it on the tree." The moment Lila hung the angel on the tree, the house seemed to shudder. A cold wind swept through the room, snuffing out the fire in the fireplace. Lila giggled, thinking it was a draft, but Claire felt a chill run down her spine. That night, strange things began to happen. Lila woke up to the sound of soft bells jingling outside her bedroom. She peeked out the window but saw nothing. The sound grew louder, and when she turned, she gasped. A shadowy figure stood in the corner of her room, its hollow eyes glowing faintly. "Who are you?" Lila whispered, her voice trembling. The figure didn't speak, but extended a skeletal hand toward her. Suddenly, Lila's door burst open, and Claire rushed in. The shadow vanished, but Lila was pale and trembling. "Mommy, there was someone in my room," she said. Claire dismissed it as a bad dream, but the next morning, she noticed scratches on Lila's bedroom wall, long, deep marks that hadn't been there before. As Christmas approached, the activity grew worse. The ornaments on the tree began to move on their own, rearranging themselves into grotesque shapes. The glass angel glowed brighter each night, casting eerie shadows across the room. Daniel, ever the skeptic, insisted it was all in their heads, but Claire knew something was wrong. Then on Christmas Eve, the whispers began. Lila woke her parents in the middle of the night, saying she heard voices calling her name. When Claire and Daniel listened closely, they heard it too, a deep, guttural whisper coming from the direction of the tree. The family gathered in the living room, terrified. The glass angel seemed to pulse with light, and the air grew icy cold. Suddenly, the tree's lights flickered, and the room was plunged into darkness. When the lights came back on, the Yule phantom stood before them, its shadowy form towering over the tree. "You have disturbed my rest," it hissed. "The pact must be fulfilled." Daniel stepped forward, trying to shield his family. "What do you want?" he demanded. The phantom's hollow eyes burned brighter. "A soul," it said. "One of you must stay." Claire clutched Lila tightly, tears streaming down her face. "We won't choose," she said defiantly. The phantom laughed, its voice echoing like thunder. "Then you will all suffer." Suddenly, the house began to shake. The ornaments fell from the tree, shattering on the floor. The walls seemed to close in, and the air grew so cold that their breaths turned to frost. In a desperate bid to save her family, Claire grabbed the glass angel and threw it into the fire. The phantom screamed, its shadowy form writhing as flames engulfed the ornament. But unlike before, the phantom didn't vanish. "You cannot destroy me," it roared. "The pact binds me to this house. The only way to end it is to sever the bond with blood." Realizing what the phantom meant, Daniel grabbed a shard of the shattered ornaments and cut his palm, letting his blood drip onto the angel's ashes in the fire. The phantom shrieked, its form flickering and growing weaker. "You think this will end it?" the phantom hissed. "The pact will never die. I will return, as I always have." With one final ear-splitting scream, the phantom dissolved into smoke, and the house fell silent. The family left the house the next morning, vowing never to return. Daniel's act of defiance had weakened the curse, but it had not broken it. Years later, a real estate agent showed the house to another family. In the attic, tucked away in a forgotten corner, they found a small, dusty box. Inside was a delicate glass angel ornament, glowing faintly in the dim light. The cycle had begun again. The story ends with a faint jingle of bells echoing through the house, a chilling reminder that the Yule Phantom's curse is eternal. The Yule Phantom's revenge. The house remained vacant for several years after Daniel, Claire, and Lila's narrow escape. The glass angel ornament, despite being destroyed in the fire, mysteriously reappeared in the attic, waiting for its next victim. But this time, the Yule Phantom had grown restless. Its curse had endured centuries, claiming countless souls. Yet with every defiance, the Phantom's power diminished slightly. It knew that it needed something more, something stronger, to bind its curse eternally. One bitterly cold December, the Miller family moved into the house. The family consisted of Ethan, a widowed father, and his two teenage children, Megan and Tyler. They were unaware of the house's dark history, lured by its charm and low price. As they unpacked, Megan stumbled upon the dusty box in the attic. Inside was the glowing glass angel ornament. "This is gorgeous," she said, running her fingers over its delicate surface. Tyler, ever the prankster, teased her about its eerie glow, but Megan insisted on placing it atop their Christmas tree. From the moment the angel was hung, strange things began happening. The tree lights flickered erratically, casting long, distorted shadows on the walls. At night, the family heard faint jingling bells, growing louder as Christmas approached. Ethan tried to dismiss it as old wiring and winter drafts, but Megan and Tyler were less convinced. One evening, Megan woke up to find the angel glowing brightly, even though the tree lights were off. The soft sound of bells echoed through her room, and when she looked closer, she saw a shadowy figure standing by the tree. Its hollow eyes stared at her, and its voice whispered, "Join me." Terrified, Megan screamed, waking the entire house. When Ethan and Tyler rushed to her room, the figure was gone, but the angel now sat on her nightstand, its glow faint but unmistakable. Desperate for answers, Ethan contacted Dr. Leonard Graves, the same historian who had helped Emma and Josh years earlier. Dr. Graves was reluctant to return to the cursed house, but Ethan's pleas convinced him. As soon as Graves entered the house, he felt the oppressive presence of the phantom. "This curse is stronger than I've ever felt it," he said grimly. "It's not just tied to the house anymore. It's feeding on the fear and defiance of those who tried to resist it." Graves explained that the only way to break the curse was to uncover the origin of the phantom and sever its connection to the physical world. "The angel is the key," Graves said, "but the curse runs deeper. Someone must face the phantom directly and destroy its bond to this house." On Christmas Eve, the family and Dr. Graves prepared for the inevitable. They placed the angel on the fireplace mantel and surrounded it with salt, candles, and protective symbols. Graves chanted an ancient incantation to summon the phantom, hoping to weaken its hold. As midnight approached, the house grew unnaturally cold. The candles flickered and went out, and the sound of jingling bells filled the air. Suddenly the phantom appeared, its shadowy form more massive and menacing than ever. "You dare summon me?" it hissed, its voice echoing with rage. "The pact cannot be broken." The phantom lunged at the group, but the salt barrier held it back. Megan, trembling with fear, clutched her father's hand. Graves stepped forward, holding an old journal he had discovered during his research. The phantom wasn't always a spirit, Graves said, his voice steady. It was a man, a father who lost his family on Christmas Eve centuries ago. In his grief, he cursed the season, vowing to take the joy and lives of others. The phantom roared, its form writhing violently. "You were a victim once," Graves continued, "but now you're the monster. Let go of this curse." The phantom hesitated, its form flickering. For a moment, it seemed as though the historian's words were reaching the spirit. But then, its eyes burned brighter. "No," it shrieked, "the curse is mine, and I will claim another soul tonight." The phantom surged forward, breaking through the salt barrier. It reached for Megan, its skeletal hand brushing her shoulder. She screamed as icy pain shot through her body. Ethan, seeing his daughter in danger, grabbed the glass angel from the mantel and held it high. "Take me instead," he shouted. The phantom froze, its hollow eyes locking onto Ethan. "You would give yourself willingly?" it asked, its voice softer, almost curious. "Yes," Ethan said, his voice trembling but resolute. "If it means saving my family, take me." The phantom moved closer, its shadow enveloping Ethan. But before it could claim him, Megan stepped forward. "No," she said, her voice shaking. This ends now. Summoning all her courage, Megan grabbed the glass angel and threw it into the fire. The phantom screamed in rage, its form dissolving into smoke. The house shook violently as the flames roared higher, consuming the angel completely. As the phantom's cries faded, the house grew still. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and the glow of the fire felt warm and comforting. Dr. Graves confirmed that the curse was finally broken. The glass angel was gone, and the phantom's presence had vanished. The Millers moved out of the house, vowing never to celebrate Christmas in fear again. But somewhere, far away, in a forgotten corner of a dusty attic, a faint jingle of bells echoed softly. The Yule Phantom's curse may have been weakened, but its essence remained, waiting for another chance to rise. Because some stories, like the Phantom itself, never truly die.